In this video, we are going to rank every single weapon from Chapter 1 of Fortnite from worst to best. Of course, just last week, we did Chapter 2, ranking every single weapon from that chapter, so if you haven't seen that, go check that out. This video will be in the exact same format as that one. There are a few caveats to this list. First of all, no Thanos Infinity Gauntlet, for obvious reasons, right? No grenades, no consumables, no heals, no LTM exclusives. And these are the Chapter 1 version of these weapons. That is extremely important to keep in mind when you're thinking about something like the Chapter 1 Scar versus the Chapter 4 Scar. And finally, there will be no Zapatron on this list. It was barely in the game, barely anybody used it, so yeah, not on this list. If you go on to enjoy this video, be sure to leave it a like, use code TYFRYZ in the Fortnite item shop, and be sure to join my new Discord. All links will be in the description, and you guys can talk about your reaction to this video. With all that being said, let's get right into this ranking. All right, so I guess right off the bat here, I should say I'm not going to go in depth on all, 46, 47 weapons, because that is going to take way too long. So there will be a couple weapons I will just kind of glide over, not really talk about, but I'll still show their picture and everything, so you will know that I rank them. But at the last spot, the worst weapon in all of Chapter 1, of course, that being Season 1 through Season X, it's Cupid's crossbow. And I did group in here the regular crossbow and the Fiend Hunter crossbow. Technically, you could have given them different rankings because they are all slightly different from each other, but to me, I just hate all the crossbows. I had to put them last. Simply put, there's no reason you should ever be taking a crossbow. If you want a long-range weapon, grab a sniper. If you want anything else, literally use any other weapon besides the crossbow. Absolutely easy dead last spot for me. At the number 45 spot, though, and this is going to come as a complete surprise, I'm guessing, to a lot of you, it's the guided missile. The guided missile was really good for like a little bit of time. But other than that tiny period where it was really good before it got absolutely nerfed into the ground, it was horrible. Let me just read out all the nerfs that this weapon got in Season 5, right? Decreased guided missile maximum turn rate by 75%. Reduced guided missile movement speed by 15%. Fuse duration reduced from 18 to 15 seconds. Movement speed decreased. Reload time increased. Reduced player damage from 110 to 74. Reduced structure damage down from 1,100 to 400. That means it was not even one-shotting metal walls by the end of these nerfs. And you could honestly argue that the guided missile, even before the nerfs, wasn't that great because all you had to do was just build a box. You could see it coming from a mile away. You could hear it coming from a mile away. Just build a one by one, take you about a second, and there you go. Guided missile is useless. You also leave your body, right? I was never a guided missile fan, but especially after these nerfs, I think you honestly could have made the argument it was the worst weapon in all of Chapter 1, and that's saying something. At number 44 is the 6-shooter. At number 43 is the thermal scoped AR, and at number 42 is just your base submachine gun from the OG seasons of Fortnite. I'm talking Season 1. The one that almost kind of looks like a machine pistol, kind of like a Tech 9 if you played any COD games. Absolutely brutal weapon. This was known back then as the worst weapon in the game. Terrible bullet spread. Like, if you held down the trigger for like half a second, the bullets were going everywhere. Just a really, really bad weapon, and we've seen literally every other SMG in the game be better than this one. At number 41 is the scoped revolver. At number 40 is the automatic sniper rifle, and at the number 39 spot is the semi-auto sniper rifle. Now look, you guys got to remember, we are talking about the Chapter 1 version of this weapon, and that version of the semi-auto sniper did not one-shot headshot. Of course, now, for example, in Chapter 4 Season OG, we know the semi-auto sniper was one-shot headshotting, and that's what made it probably the best sniper in the game at the time. But in Chapter 1, of course, that wasn't the case, so everybody was taking the bolt action sniper over the semi, because why would you ever take a sniper that can't one-shot headshot, right? I think it was actually taking 3 body shots to kill somebody. Once you take all those factors into account here, very obvious why the semi-auto is at the bottom of this list. At number 38 is the Burst SMG. At the number 37 spot is the Storm Scout Sniper Rifle. At the number 36 spot is just your base pistol. And at the number 35 spot is the Scoped AR. So the Scoped AR used to be like absolutely pitiful when it first came out, and then it got a little better over time. Still, like, I don't think the Scoped AR was many people's first choice of assault rifle. I think many people here would probably agree that they would take the Scar 10 out of 10 times over the Scoped AR, and yeah, for that reason, the Scoped AR all the way down here towards the bottom. At the number 34 spot is going to be the minigun, and this is actually really interesting, and you're going to see a common trend here with a lot of weapons from the OG seasons of Fortnite, that balancing like really didn't exist. So a lot of these weapons, like the guided missile and the minigun, which I'm about to talk about, were really, really strong on launch and then got nerfed over time. And yeah, that's exactly what happened with the minigun, because there was no cooldown. If you had 9 999 light bullets. You could shoot all 999 of those without stopping. Just sit there, hold the minigun out, shoot all your bullets, and that was totally how the weapon was supposed to function. There was no overheat mechanic. Thankfully, towards the back end of Chapter 1, they added the overheat mechanic in the minigun, and that really took it down a lot. I believe they nerfed it in a couple other ways, but adding the overheat mechanic is really what took it down. So, of course, I have to factor in the pre-overheat mechanic and the post-overheat mechanic minigun. So that's why it is where it is on this list, but if you've watched my Chapter 2 video, minigun lovers have nothing to complain about. At our number 33 spot is the quad launcher. At number 32 is the suppressed pistol, and at number 31 is the proximity grenade launcher. And yeah, the proximity grenade launcher often goes forgotten about as a Fortnite weapon in general, not just with Chapter 1, but with all of Fortnite. I think it's only made an appearance in the game 2 or 3 times besides Chapter 1, the most recent being Season OG. I believe it was in that season. And this weapon was barely in Chapter 1. I think it was only in for about 2 or 3 seasons max. And it's a really weird weapon, right? It's a scoped rocket launcher where the grenade that you shoot out of it explodes when it gets close to somebody, but if it's not close to anybody, it'll just kind of bounce around and it won't explode. Just really not a weapon that I think is very good. I think it's okay in a couple situations, but other than that, yeah, not great. At the number 30 spot is the revolver. I know there are going to be some people in my comment section who are not going to like this choice because I know the revolver has a very strong fan base. All of you Moist Critical fans are absolutely not going to like this choice. Look, like, it's a decent weapon. I think there are better single shot pistols that came out in Chapter 1, and we'll get to that in a little bit. I just think the thing with the revolver is the majority of players, I'm going to say 90% of players, are unable to use this weapon effectively. If you are in that 10% with incredible accuracy, especially when first shot accuracy was introduced, this thing became a demon, then, you know, you're able to dominate with this weapon and end up being a really, really solid option for you. But honestly, I think the majority of players will probably just pass on the revolver when they see it in the ground. At the number 29 spot is the suppressed SMG, and here's another really interesting story. Because if you didn't play in Chapter 1, you will not remember this. You'll probably just see the suppressed SMG as a pretty much a bottom feeder weapon. But there was a small period of time in the early seasons of Chapter 1 when the suppressed SMG was being taken over Scars. It was the best weapon in the game. I'm telling you right now, like, the suppressed SMG was a go-to weapon. You might not believe me. I'm going to try and get all the gameplay I can on it. It was dominant. That's because it was so incredibly accurate with a fast fire rate. It was suppressed. It was great. But of course, we're not talking about that version of the suppressed SMG. We're talking about the version when the last day of Season X happened, right? When Chapter 1 ended, and that version of suppressed SMG is not great. It's a decent option, I guess, if you have no other SMG, but I think almost every SMG in Fortnite history is probably better than this one, including the Primal SMG. Of course, though, that is a Chapter 2 weapon, but I think the suppressed SMG is really a mid weapon. At the number 28 spot are dual pistols, and at the number 27 spot is the drum gun. Again, I know I said it earlier, but you're going to keep hearing me saying it through this video. Balance literally did not exist for a lot of the seasons in Chapter 1. So many weapons launched absolutely broken out of their minds and then were tuned later on in different seasons in Chapter 1. Because the drum gun was the best weapon in Fortnite history for a little bit. That was mainly until they decided to absolutely nerf the living crap out of this gun. Basically, everyone was begging for it to come back with the unvaulting event, and the drum gun won. Everybody voted for the drum gun to be unvaulted because everyone loved the drum gun. It was so good. Unfortunately, though, we got a heavily nerfed version of the drum gun. It was nowhere near what it used to be, and I would argue it wasn't even in the top 50% of SMGs. What a fall from grace for this weapon, and of course, I'm not saying it's terrible or anything, but nowhere near what it used to be. At the number 26 spot is the drum shotgun. And of course, for any of you recent players, you probably know the drum shotgun from, I believe, was it Chapter 4, Season 3, where you had the enhanced drum shotgun. I mean, that thing was busted into absolute oblivion. That was an absolute top tier shotgun, but that's not the drum shotgun that we're talking about today. The Chapter 1 version of the drum shotgun is extremely mid. It's actually only a few placements away from being at the smack dab middle of this list. That's because I think it's not great, but not terrible. And you know, like, I don't even know if it's the drum shotgun's fault. There's a couple other factors that are the reason why the drum shotgun wasn't as good as it could have been, or as it was in Chapter 4, Season 3. Firstly, I would say the main reason why it wasn't great was because no build didn't exist. Zero build was not a thing. You could only queue up into a Fortnite match and you had to build. And that's really key because typically the spammy shotguns were the ones that are the best in zero build. But in build mode, a lot of people will go for the pump shotgun, right? Because it's just a lot more more smooth, fluid to do your edit, hit a pump shot, close the edit, you know, all that type of stuff, right? Your kind of piece control, box fighting type of Fortnite. I think there's only a couple exceptions of fully auto shotguns that have been really good in both zero build and build mode. I would say probably the Frenzy auto shotgun from Chapter 5 Season 1 is one of those. But also, unfortunately for the drum shotgun, there are just two incredible options for shotguns at the time. If I remember correctly, the drum shotgun was in a loot pool with the pump shotgun, which of course everyone's taking the pump, and also the busted combat shotgun, which also was really good. I hate to kind of rip on this weapon because if you do get in a box with somebody, this is probably your best option out of any of the shotguns in Chapter 1. Anyways, at number 25 is the tactical assault rifle, and at number 24 is the double barrel shotgun. The double barrel shotgun is an incredibly polarizing weapon. I feel like if you took the community and split them in half, I would say half the people would say they like the double barrel and half the sides would say that they don't like the double barrel. I think you can probably like mimic everything I just said about the drum shotgun and say it for the double barrel shotgun. In build mode, this is a shotgun that kind of has a little bit of a tough time. I'm not saying that you can't use this weapon in build mode because as soon as you get into somebody's box, this is maybe the best option in Fortnite history for a close quarters weapon. That might be like a little bit of an exaggeration, right? But you guys get the point, right? At close quarters, this is your go-to weapon. It's just, look, it's nothing against the double barrel shotgun. It's just, unfortunately, the pump shotgun and the tac shotgun exist, which are incredibly superior shotguns to this one. At the number 23 spot is the heavy assault rifle, or as a lot of you guys know it, as the AK. Again, another weapon that launched absolutely busted. I think there was a time when the AK was doing, I want to say 98 headshot damage in a gold version, which is just insane to think about, an assault rifle doing 98 damage on a headshot. That quickly got nerfed, quickly got changed, and the heavy assault rifle just ended up being kind of a mid-tier assault rifle, very inaccurate, but if you tap fired it, really solid damage. You could say a lot of the same at the number 22 spot for the suppress scar, very good tap firing, but not good fully auto. At the number 21 spot is the LMG, and at the number 20 spot is the suppress bolt action. While I do think that the regular bolt action is better than this, having a suppressor on a sniper is actually one of the weapons where it is incredibly useful for, and definitely a really solid alternative to the bolt action sniper. At the number 19 spot is the heavy shotgun, and at the number 18 spot is the deagle. I know, we all miss when the deagle was the new pocket heavy sniper. You could just one-shot any build, jump into their box. Yeah, that was absolutely broken, and that quickly got changed for a reason. Even with that change, though, I still do believe the deagle is an incredible pistol. And that's because of the big time damage. You saw a lot of streamers back in the day were using the deagle. That's because if you were accurate and you had a good shot, you could easily be doing 150, 160, 170 damage with a pistol. I am a massive fan of the deagle, as I know a lot of you guys are as well. I think this is a good spot for it. A high risk, high reward weapon. But I do think there's another pistol that edges it out at the number 17 spot. That's the flintlock pistol. Look, you can save yourself from fall damage with this pistol. You might think that that's an aspect of the weapon that you can look over, but in my opinion, it is what makes it so good. You not only get to save yourself from fall damage, you get to use the flintlock as great mobility too, right? If you're on low ground, someone's on high ground, shoot at your feet, and it's almost like a mini shockwave grenade, or maybe an impulse grenade would be a better term to use there. And you also get a really solid weapon, right? Look, obviously it's incredibly inaccurate for a reason. You can crouch, make it a little bit more accurate so that you don't go flying backwards when you use it, but I think it does, what, 180 headshot damage? So really nothing to kind of overlook there, in my opinion. Flintlock is a really good pistol, and I believe it is better than the deagle. At the number 16 spot is the tactical SMG. In the current state of Fortnite, the TAC SMG sucks. I'm sure we're all seeing that in Fortnite Reload, right? Do not take the TAC SMG. Nobody is using it. But in Chapter 1, I think there is an argument to be made that the TAC SMG was the best SMG we saw in that chapter, especially in Season X at the very end. Not many people remember this, but when Starry Suburbs came out, and that also came with the launch of the legendary TAC SMG. Legendary TAC SMG in Chapter 1 only existed for, I want to say, like a month or so, and it could only be found in Starry Suburbs. I was an avid Starry Suburbs enjoyer, and so the TAC SMG, I was having an absolute field day with the legendary TAC SMG. It really pains me that they nerfed it so bad in the newer chapters of Fortnite, but that Chapter 1 TAC SMG sticks close to my heart. I love this weapon. At the number 15 spot is the hunting rifle, and in the number 14 spot is the combat shotgun, launched of course in Chapter 1 Season 9. And the combat shotgun was a really tough one to rank because I believe actually it launched in a really bad state, and then they buffed it and it became unreal, like really, really good, like better than the pump shotgun type good. And then over the course of the season, it slowly got nerfed and nerfed and nerfed again into then a shotgun that I believe was, of course, inferior to the tac shotgun and the pump shotgun. But there was a time when the combat shotgun was the best one we had ever seen. But that wasn't the case at the end of chapter 1. I think it ended up being in that like kind of mid-range of shotguns. Still though, I would say a pretty serviceable alternative to the tac shotgun. At the number 13 spot is the grenade launcher, and at the number 12 spot is the burst assault rifle. Honestly, if we could just like totally forget the common burst AR ever existed, just boot that thing out of here. I love the burst assault rifle. Everybody knows, of course, the blue burst. We all love the blue burst. Absolutely goated. Some would argue better than the SCAR. I would disagree with that, but what I will say is an absolute super solid alternative to the regular assault rifle in Fortnite. And at the number 11 spot is your regular bolt action sniper. And to be honest with you, if the heavy sniper didn't exist, the bolt would be a lot higher on this list because the bolt was the main sniper for the first, I would say, probably 4 seasons of Fortnite. Unfortunately, the heavy sniper, the chapter 1 version, absolutely puts this weapon in the dust. But that's nothing on the bolt action sniper because it does still one-shot headshot. One of the few weapons in Fortnite that could actually one-shot headshot at the time. And I'm a little biased because I love sniping. It's got a soft spot in my heart. This is where I really fell in love with Fortnite sniping, was using the bolt action. So yeah, it's got a special place for me, as I'm sure it does for a lot of you guys as well. All right, we have made it into the top 10 Fortnite weapons of chapter 1. These are the best of the best, top weapons of their class. And honestly, if you took them and put them in any other chapter of Fortnite, which many of them actually have been, they are some of the top tier weapons. At the number 10 spot is the submachine gun, that being the MP5 looking weapon. This is a really good Fortnite weapon, and during season 5 when the spray meta was a thing, there were people who were carrying 2-3 of these weapons. They were really good. I think number 10 is a relatively fair spot for this weapon just because there is another SMG in chapter 1 that is significantly better than it, I would say, and I will be getting into details on that weapon very shortly. But I think if you were blindfolded and I just went to you and I said picture the Fortnite submachine gun, this is probably the weapon that you would picture, and that's for a good reason. I think it's a really good weapon. Anyways, at the number 9 spot is the infantry rifle, and this is actually one of the really rare cases in Fortnite history when a weapon launches so bad that they actually have to buff it. As we've seen on this list, they typically will launch weapons extremely broken and then they will nerf them right away. But the infantry rifle launched terrible. That's because it was not a hit scan weapon. As a chapter 5 player, you might be like, dude, what are you talking about? We love non-hit scan weapons. Well, nobody back then liked non-hit scan weapons. They didn't exist except for, you know, obviously sniper rifles, stuff like that. But once they decided to make this weapon hit scan, that's when it all changed for the infantry rifle, ended up becoming a top tier assault rifle. If I were just isolating the purple and gold infantry rifle and keeping that as its own ranking, this would probably be a top 5 weapon. It is unreal, and one of the weapons I think you could argue in chapter 1 that maybe was better than the SCAR. Of course, that's up to personal preference, but if you've been playing Fortnite Reload and you've been using this thing, you know how good this version of the infantry rifle is. At the number 8 spot, and I just hinted about it when I was talking about the regular SMG, that's going to be the compact SMG, or some of you guys probably know it as the P90. And oh man, pre-nerf compact SMG might be the number 1 spot on this list. And honestly, talking about all these weapons pre-nerf makes me think that maybe I should do a video of weapons before they got nerfed. This thing was so good before it got nerfed that I think it was like an emergency nerf. I think it got nerfed like a couple hours or maybe like a day or two after it came out because it had 50 bullets in the clip, like literally infinite structure damage. People were just spraying down any build you placed. And of course they nerfed it and it became a lesser version of what it was, but it is still, in my ranking at least, a top 10 SMG. I would argue the best SMG in all of chapter 1. It is still a really good weapon, especially at close quarters. You're going to struggle to find weapons that were better than this in chapter 1. At the number 7 spot is probably one of the most forgotten about weapons in Fortnite history. It's the boom bow from season 8. Of course, we've seen mythics like TNTina's kaboom bow, but that thing is actually much worse than the regular boom bow was in season 8. Besides LTMs, this is actually one of the only weapons in Fortnite history that is what I would like to call a one season wonder. It was only a one season of Fortnite and has never come back since then, which makes this a really unique weapon to talk about because I'm sure there are a lot of people watching this video that never got the opportunity to actually use this weapon. If you didn't play in chapter 1, you never would have used the boom bow. But what a weapon. I mean, I absolutely believe it to be the best bow in Fortnite history. You were getting sniper-like damage with an explosive tipped bow. Also, it was using shotgun shells at the time because bows weren't a type of ammo, or I guess rather I should say arrows. The gameplay is absolutely going to show it. The boom bow was unreal. It was an incredible weapon. Unfortunately, it was barely in the game. I think the boom bow should come back 100%. I loved using this gun. At the number 6 spot is a weapon that has also seemingly been forgot about. It's the RPG. This weapon also, spoiler alert, made it very high on my chapter 2 every weapon list. And that's because there wasn't really much that changed from chapter 1 to chapter 2 with the RPG. It's basically the same weapon. You know what you're getting out of the RPG, right? You're getting 115, 130 damage with a great explosive radius, but of course a really slow rate of fire and the potential to really easily actually do all that damage to yourself. In the earlier seasons of Fortnite, when you could hold like 150 rockets, the RPG was a lot better, but of course they changed that. They limited the amount of rockets you could hold, eventually all the way down to, I think, 13, which is what it is now. That, of course, really hurt the rocket launcher, but still a really, really good gun in Chapter 1. At the number 5 spot on this list is the TAC shotgun. I've kind of hinted at it a little bit throughout this video. The TAC and pump shotgun are like Batman and Robin, right? Like, they're always a duo together. It's either you take the TAC shotgun or you take the pump shotgun. I would say early in Chapter 1, especially when you could double pump and you had like green pump shotguns doing 230 headshot damage, the pump was clearly the superior shotgun of the season. But I think as time got on, it became a lot less clear which one you wanted to take, the pump or the TAC. As you can tell from these rankings, I think the pump is the superior shotgun, but especially when the TAC got the purple and legendary variants, you would occasionally see players, especially pro players, dropping the pump for the purple and legendary TAC, because that version of the TAC did incredible structure damage. So instead of just trying to pickaxe someone's wall and then having to re-pull out your shotgun, just keep your shotgun out the whole time. While I am a pump user, I do really like the TAC, and I think it shouldn't be any surprise that it's within the top 10, actually now within the top 5 of this list. At the number 4 spot is the M16 assault rifle, or just your, basic assault rifle, and this will, of course, include the SCAR. I think in common through blue rarities, it is extremely clear that the M16 assault rifle, the basic Fortnite assault rifle, is the best one you're going to find in all of Chapter 1. I think that decision becomes a little bit less clear once you get into the purple and legendary version, because you have weapons like the infantry rifle, or even some would argue the AK, that might be better than the SCAR. Of course, I do have to emphasize again, we are talking about the end of Chapter 1, right? And so that is not going to be your 98 headshot damage gold SCAR, but still, even with the headshot damage reductions down to 72 headshot, the SCAR was, for me at least, the go-to assault rifle for all of Chapter 1 and only beat out by the AUG in the beginning of Chapter 2. You get really everything you want, right? You get a great fire rate, great accuracy, great damage, and there's a reason why it is like the coveted Fortnite weapon. At the number 3 spot though, one of my favorite weapons in Fortnite history, it is the Chapter 1 heavy sniper rifle. And let me tell you, I absolutely took 157 damage to the body with a sniper rifle for granted, because we just don't see weapons like this anymore. I think the closest we've gotten to it is probably like the heavy impact sniper rifle in terms of base damage, right? Because I actually would argue the Reaper sniper rifle was better than this version of the heavy sniper rifle. But look, okay, we're not talking about those weapons. Let's focus on the Chapter 1 version of the heavy sniper, because it was absolutely incredible. I mean, not only do you get ridiculous body shot damage, I mean, if you were to open a fight hitting somebody for 156 damage, 157 damage, the fight is absolutely over, right? There's no way that other person can take you out. Facing a good player with the heavy sniper is like on the same level of facing a good player with the spaz shotgun, right? It's almost like the fight is over before it starts. Not only did you get absolutely incredible damage, but you also got one-shotting every single wall, so people were using it to double heavy snipe, right? Or to take walls from you. It was just such a good weapon. You can tell I love talking about the heavy sniper, but I'll cut it off there because I don't want this video to be too long. But to me, easy number 3 spot. At the number 2 spot, and look, I'm sure there are a ton of you who are expecting this to be a different placement, it's the pump shotgun. And I know probably everybody thought that this was going to be the number 1 spot, but once I say the number 1 spot, you guys are going to be like, oh, yes, of course, I forgot about that one. I have talked about the pump shotgun so much in all of my videos, especially the video I just did, my chapter 2 ranking. So I really don't want to take a lot of time. I don't want to continue to like repeat the same stuff every single video. You guys all know how good the pump shotgun was. You all know the history of the pump. The spaz got added in chapter 1. That's what really took the pump to the next level. You had double pump in chapter 1, of course. If you go to any creative map that uses a shotgun, 99% of the time, it's going to be the spaz shotgun. Everything about this weapon is great. Yes, I absolutely love glazing the pump shotgun. It deserves to be up here. At the number 1 spot, though, and this is the best weapon undoubtedly in the entire chapter, it's the Infinity Blade. And yes, I know this does seem like a little bit of a cheeser pick here, but it was in the game for a short amount of time. It wasn't in an LTM, it was in the public battle royale, and so therefore it does deserve to be on this list. If you're angry at me for not putting Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet, well, if I was going to put it, of course it would be at the number 1 spot here with the Infinity Blade. Look, there is no explanation needed. Everybody knows how good the Infinity Blade was. The gameplay will speak for itself. The gameplay will actually be from the Winter Royale tournament, where for some reason Epic Games added this in a day before, like I think it was like $1 million tournament. Just a total disaster on their part, and yeah, you can see why, because this weapon absolutely plagued the entire tournament. Easily the best weapon in chapter 1. There should be no arguments in the comment section about this one. And yeah, guys, that is every single weapon in chapter 1 of Fortnite ranked from worst to best. Now, I actually expected there to be a lot more weapons. If you count all what I counted, there are really only 46, maybe like 47, 48 if you want to split up a couple weapons. But be sure to leave a comment. Let me know how you thought I did ranking this list, and if you've watched until the end, whether or not you would like me to rank every single weapon in chapter 5 of Fortnite, because I think a lot of people would like that video. With all that being said, quickly at the end of this video, I do want to give a quick shout out to my channel members. The link to join the channel and get exclusive perks will be in the description below. Thanks to these legends, they are helping me to create this content. Thanks again for tuning into this video, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.